Hello everyone, this is Shyamala Shanmugasundaram. I'm a children's author, freelance writer, and chief ideator of Kahani Takbak. Today I'm going to be talking to Varsha Seshan. Varsha Seshan lives in Pune. She's a children's author, she's a dancer, and she has done so much of other stuff. Let's find out more. My first question to you, Varsha, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. So you started writing pretty early, right? I mean, when you were 7.5, that's what your website says, that you had your first story published. Right? So
Yes,
did you know? I mean, was that like you were interested in reading, so the writing came because of because
it
of
did.
the
It did.
reading? What was the
Yes.
first
So I
story
loved
that you
reading.
get
I used to
published?
read. So I used to read a lot. I used to read Enid Blyton. I used to, well, primarily Enid Blyton to tell the truth. And which is why, I mean, today it's called fan fiction. But when I was a child, I used to write stories about Amelia Jane and I didn't know it was fan fiction because I just wrote about Amelia Jane. And I also wrote a range of other stories. And my parents were both really supportive because my father's a journalist, my mother's a teacher. So my father used to subscribe to lots and lots of newspapers. And a lot of these children's newspapers had contests. And I took part in a contest, and that led to the publication of my first story, which was
Where
when I
did
was
it
seven.
get published?
It was published in a children's newspaper called Children's Herald. So
Okay.
it won the first prize in the
Wow.
contest. So
Okay.
it was particularly special for me because it was published on my mother's birthday. So I was
Oh
really
wow.
yes.
Okay, okay. So did the road roller dream come before or after this particular story got?
I would say that I've always wanted to drive a road roller for as long as I can remember. And I'm not quite sure why. I don't know what the attraction is, but I always wanted to drive a road roller. So yes, probably at the same time. And I don't know whether I ever thought that, okay, this is not a job, this is not a career that I could follow. But at the same time, I was really keen. And I had asked my mother, I remember, why are there no women driving road rollers? Because I want to drive a road roller. So she told me that it's a heavy machine, but you can do it. Go ahead. So that was the road roller dream.
So did you go on to write many stories in your childhood?
I did. I did. I wrote a lot of stories in my childhood. In some ways, I kind of admire the child I was because I was very disciplined about writing. So even when I was 6.5 years old, I would sit and try to write a story a day. So sometimes they wouldn't be complete stories. Sometimes they would. And they were all kinds of stories. So I clearly remember there was a story that I wrote when I was about 7 called The Pig Who Loved Payasam. And I never finished writing that story. And it's a story that's calling out to me because I think it's such a promising title, The Pig Who Loved
Absolutely.
Payasam.
I love
I
it.
should
I
write
love
it.
it. Yes, you
Yeah.
should. You should finish it someday. So, at
Yes.
what point did you realize that writing is something you can continue in your adulthood?
I think it was seeing my name in print because the first publication when I was 7 was really the beginning of a journey. There were lots more that happened after that. Again, thanks to the fact that I was exposed to a lot of contests because of my father. So we subscribed to Children's Herald. Then the Indian Express had a children's version called Bratline. Then the Midday had Kid Day. Then there was the Sunday Observer, which had the Young Observer. So I used to send stories to all of them. And I think equally important was the fact that my first rejections also came when I was that young. The idea that every story that I write is not going to be good enough. So there were some that won prizes and some that received no responses. And that kind of prepared me for my adulthood and the career of writing.
So, what was your graduation? What
I did
stream
my
did you choose?
English
Okay,
literature.
okay.
I did
So
my
by that time
graduation
you
and
had some
postgraduate.
clarity as to
Yes, yes.
which
As
direction you
long
take.
as I can remember, I think I wanted to be a writer. I think when I was 7, 8, I thought I wanted to be a writer, and it just solidified as time went by. It was something I enjoyed, something I continued to do, something I loved.
Hmm, hmm. So your first story, right? It was a short story which got published with Puffin. Was that in an
That's right.
anthology?
Yes, that's in an anthology. That's called Let's Play. So
Okay.
this one was in 2010. So this was my first commissioned story. So someone from Puffin wrote to me and asked whether I would be willing to write a sports story. So in 2010, this one was published by
Okay.
Puffin.
Huh. So it's been, it's been a long journey of 10 years, right? Am I right?
Yes.
Right. You've written a whole lot of variety, right? And I
Yes.
always admire that you're so versatile. You've been able to write picture books, you've been able to write chapter books, middle grade readers, and a whole lot of other stuff. So what trait, manages this entire range of books? What has remained, uh, what has made you versatile?
I think it's exposure. It's exposure to books because even now, as an adult, the books that I read are primarily children's books. I can't remember the last adult book that I read really. But because I read picture books, I read chapter books, I read middle grade books, and middle grade is my absolute favorite in terms of reading. And that's the reason why I think I'm a little bit choosy about the way I write middle grade, and I take very long to write middle grade. But I love that age group as well. And I would also say that the other thing that's kept me writing for a range of readers is the fact that I work with children of various age groups. So I work with very young children, I work with middle grade readers. So from the age of 7 to the age of about 13, I work with them on reading and writing. So this keeps me connected to them.
What is the process of writing? Do you like shift from one genre to the other? Are you able to do that? Or, could it be that you write a chapter book in the morning and then you work on a picture book in the evening? Or
I usually don't mix projects. So until I finish writing something, I find it really difficult to go to something else. If I go to something else, it's likely that I leave the first one incomplete.
Okay.
So I avoid moving to something else. Finish, then move on.
Move on. That's a good thing. So you have an entire draft in hand. At least you have something to work with when you move on.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So
yes.
your latest book, I love the title. Okay, show us the Clockwell clues, right? I love clocks. I've always wanted to write, and I am looking. I'm still looking for the right characters and the right plot to bring out. And someday I will write the clock story. But for you, what worked for this book? Did the characters drive the plot, or did you find the story and then build the characters around it?
I would actually say that the setting came first.
Lift the book. Yes.
Yes.
Great.
So I would actually say the setting came first. Yeah. So the reason why the setting came first is because, for one, just like you said, I've always loved clocks, and they're fascinating. We also had a winding clock at home. So we would climb on a stool, wind the clock, and then it would make a sound which is slightly frightening. And all of that finds its way into the story as well. The fact that the children are winding clocks and they stand on stools to do that. So in that sense, I would say it's experience and setting. So the whole story takes place in a place that I've called Tipu Gully, but it's very closely based on a gully that exists in Pune called Kolsa Gully. So it has the same kinds of tiny shops, which is framing shops and key shops and things like that. So that setting came first for me for this particular story. And people who live in Pune would actually identify certain things like West End theatre because I've mixed fact and fiction. So West End is a real theatre, which we used to visit quite often before multiplexes came in. And the gullies, the way in which it's structured, even there's a place where the two characters sit on a staircase and discuss what they're going to do. That staircase is real. It leads up to a real shop called Top. So setting came first. And then the characters kind of fell into place because in this locality, you have a lot of bakeries, you have a very mixed kind of population there. And that led to the creation of a character like Sheba, because Sheba has a background with the Clockwalas. So her surname is Clockwala. So then the way in which her character develops allowed me also to develop the story.
Which is your favorite character from this book?
I would say it's Clockwala Uncle. Clockwala Uncle is delightful because he's a little bit grumpy. He doesn't smile, but he has a sense of humor that you can understand. So his eyes are always smiling, but his face is always serious, and he never answers questions straight. So you ask him a question and he never gives you a straight answer. And that's why the children keep kind of troubling him to try to trick him into giving them the right answer. So I love that character.
Is he in the book? Suvita Mistry has
Yes,
done
yes.
the beautiful illustrations, right? Can you
Yes,
show the
yes. So Suvita
readers?
Mistry has done the illustrations. They're
Yeah.
beautiful.
Can you show the reader a picture
Yes,
of
and I also
the
actually
Clockwell?
particularly love how the
Can you?
circle has been used. So, for example, the
Yes.
hole over here,
Wow. Yes.
isn't
Yes.
it
Yes.
lovely? It's so this
Absolutely.
is the whole
Absolutely.
clock, and you
Yes.
have the hole there. So then
Ha.
each of these, so many of these holes have been used perfectly. So you can
Hmm.
imagine your clock for yourself over here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Great.
Yes, because
Wow.
that's the clock, and you have the hole there. So
Yes.
each place that the clock has been used, so there's a page full of clocks, because
Oh,
obviously
wow.
you have a clock shop, and then you
Ha.
have one clock which is hanging, which you have to figure out yourself. So I think the fact that it's a whole book also allowed the illustrator Suvita Mistry to do so much, and
Yeah.
she's done a wonderful job.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
love her
innovative.
work. It's awesome. Is Mr.
Yes.
Clockwalla there inside? Is he there?
Yes,
Do you
let me show you
remember?
Mr.
Yeah.
Clockwala, who's grumpy.
Oh,
That's Mr.
yes,
Clockwala,
he
and he's
does.
not
He does.
angry, all right? He's not angry. He's just grumpy, and he's playing with the children as much as the children are playing with him.
Yeah. So you got another book with Zubaan.
There
Can
are
you
lots
tell
of
us all?
pictures of him.
Can you tell us a bit
Yes, so
about the
Zubaan
Zubaan book?
was Sisters at New Dawn.
Yes. So,
Yes,
this is
that's
based
Sisters
on
at New Dawn.
yeah, this is based on a boarding school, right? So, did you live?
That's right.
Yes, you were a part of a boarding school? No.
No,
So this
no,
is
I was
based.
never part of a boarding school.
This is based on what you
So the
read.
thing is, yes, I think
Yes.
like so many other kids, I read Mallory Towers, I read St. Clair's, and later I read Harry Potter. But one thing that I did was that the two protagonists of this book, Kannagi and Padma, they are not boarders; they are day scholars. So it's a boarding school, but they're not part of the boarding yet. And the reason why I did that was also because I wanted their experience to be as authentic as I could make it. And for me, the day scholar experience was something that I know better. So that's the reason why I chose to make them day scholars.
Yeah. So there are two main characters in this book, and there are two main characters in the Clockwalla Clues. So you do have a sister, right?
I do. I do. And anybody who reads Sisters at New Dawn feels that it's about my sister Nisha and me, though it's not. But it's of course very influenced by us because we have a very close relationship, Nisha and I. So that finds its way into the book, and that's the reason why the dedication in this book is to Nisha, because sisters are special. Sisters are very, very special.
So there are lots of interesting subjects in this book. Which is your favorite subject, right? I mean, tell the readers about some of the ones which you created. And
so there are lots and lots. My favorite subject is maths and beauty. So the reason why I love maths and beauty is because very often I find children who are artsy think that they don't like maths. They like maths is something, but I love maths. I love maths. I love geometry. I love algebra, and I think that also comes from the fact that I'm a dancer. Because when you dance, especially a classical dance, shapes and lines are very, very important. So when you look at any kind of a classical posture, lines are parallel, your limbs are parallel, and the beauty of the dance comes from this kind of geometry. So there are triangles, there are circles, there are parallel lines, and when anything is out of sync, it's not as beautiful. So maths and beauty are a combination which is very, very natural. And then, of course, you have the science behind it, which is the science, the golden ratio, and everything that creates beauty mathematically. And I think it's lovely. And this idea is something that I want children to think about as well. Though the book is not preachy in any way. If they hate maths, they hate maths. So out of the two sisters, Padma hates maths and Kannagi loves maths. So a reader can go either way, but it's my personal favorite subject.
Which brings to my next question. How does dancing fuel your creativity?
I think the two, dancing and writing, for me go together because in some ways they're both slow. They both teach you to be patient, because anybody who's a writer knows that a large part of the publishing journey involves waiting. And if you're just waiting, you're not going to really get anything done. And it's also anxiety inducing. You're stressed because you don't know whether you're going to receive a response. And dance kind of gives me a little bit of grounding. And because I practice a classical dance, it's also slow. So there's no course as such. So people ask me, how are you still learning dance? I mean, you've been practicing for so long. You must be teaching. Yes, I am teaching, but the learning journey never ends. And I've been with my teacher for over 25 years, and I still have so much to learn. And my teacher knew me when I was a 6-year-old, and she knows me now. I'm 34 years old, and it's been a long time, 28 years to be with one person. You build a bond as well. So I think all of this goes together. And the other thing that I think helps in terms of dance is very strong friendships. So I know that a lot of dance schools have very competitive dancers. Thankfully, my dance school is not like that. So we are all pushing one another forward. We're not holding one another back. And friendship is a strong theme in my writing, just like you said. So two girls here, two girls there. This friendship, whether it's childhood friendship or adult friendship, I think it makes life what it is. Absolutely. And dance creates this kind of friendship, because you have to be in sync with your co-dancer. Because if the dancer who's with you on stage makes a mistake, you need to help that person. You can't just go on doing your own thing and say, you figure this one out. You've just got to figure it out together. And on stage, it creates the most wonderful stories. So again, they go together.
Yeah. So do you dance every day?
Pretty much 5 times a week.
Yeah. And do you get this eureka moment when you're dancing, when you're stuck with an idea, stuck with a plot, and suddenly, while you're dancing, it comes, yes, I know what I can do with my story. Does that happen often?
Not usually. I think because dance is a space where I completely move away from this world of, okay, what's going to happen next? Because I've been dancing for so long, muscle memory plays such a huge role. You're just going with it. You let yourself go. So, which is why so many people say that dance is like meditation. You're just in your body, you're breathing, all of that. So,
Dragonflies, Jigsaws, and Seashells. That's an anthology of stories which has come out from Scholastic Asia, right? Can we have a look? Great. So,
this is the Scholastic India edition. Scholastic Asia also has an edition, which I could probably not show you. I mean, everything's gonna.
So I know this book has a journey, right? It has its connections from Singapore, because that's.
Yes.
I remember the first time you came under my radar was when you attended AFCC Singapore conference. So that was the time I realized, okay, there's a Varsha Seshan, and what is this girl doing in Singapore? I should find out more. And did the Railway Elephant book go to AFCC Singapore, or?
I did launch one of those there. So I did a launch for this railway book over there, which is Polu and the Smart Card. That was another series which got held up in some ways because of lots of things beyond my control. So that's a series that I wrote, which I loved writing. But yes, I went to Singapore for this, which is Dragonflies, Jigsaws, and Seashells. This is the Scholastic Asia edition, which
can you hold it higher? Can you hold it higher? Yes. Okay. A bit, just take it behind. Yes. Right. So this came out of a competition with Scholastic Asia, right?
Yes.
So it made its debut in Singapore and then traveled all the way to India. That's wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah. So this one was I sent it in for the Scholastic Asian Book Award in 2016, and it was shortlisted for the award, which was a really joyous moment for me, because in a sense, it started its journey, of course, in India, and I sent it out to publishers. And to be honest, a lot of publishers loved the stories there, but they said that there's not really a market for unconnected short stories in a collection. So unless there's some sort of concept note or it's part of an anthology, the style is great, but we won't be able to publish it. But when I took it to Singapore, when I sent it for the Scholastic Asian Book Award, it was shortlisted and it was published by Scholastic Asia in 2018. And then it took a long time to become this one, which is the Scholastic India edition.
Yes. I'm so glad it got published. Can you read out any of your favorite stories? Probably a line or two.
So I'm not sure which one is my favorite, but
Okay.
I
Anything
think
which
the
calls out to you
ones,
at the moment.
yes, sure, sure. So I'm going to go with jigsaw puzzles because it's a story that's really close to my heart because as a child I loved jigsaw puzzles. So it's a moment where this character is looking at a competition just like me, and he says a jigsaw puzzle competition, and his father grinned. Don't your friends get this newspaper too? So for me, this moment is special also because sometimes we have a talent which for whatever reason we are embarrassed by, so we don't tell our friends that we do this, and that's the kind of character that Aniket is. So here each story is different. So what I prefer to do actually is to tell you about the title, why I chose this title. It's called Dragonflies, Jigsaws, and Seashells because there are three kinds of stories there. So the story about dragonflies is a rural story. So some time ago, I traveled to Perani, which is near Pondicherry, and there for the first time I came across what they call a dragonfly man. So he's a bare-chested man who beats a big plate to drive the dragonflies away so that they don't damage the crops. And the place is full of dragonflies. So he's out in the sun all day, banging that plate of his, and he gets paid by all the farmers. And this was an idea that struck me then because I went there for social work. So we were painting the walls of a school. We were working with villagers on making a road. And I was thinking we need a story that is set in something like this, which is not an urban story. So that's my dragonfly story. My jigsaw story is a completely urban story because really that's the childhood that I had. So it's about a child in a city going to school the way I know a kind of a regular city school. And the seashell story is a magical story. So it's a fantasy story because there's a creature called Moonstone who comes out of the sea and belongs to the sea. And in a sense, the title captures the three kinds: the rural, the urban, and the fantastic. And that's the reason why I chose
Great. So it's a mix of realistic fiction, nature, and fantasy. I think that's a
yes.
wonderful collection which will appeal to the readers.
I hope so. Yes. Yeah.
Do you want to read a para from the Sisters of the New Dawn?
Okay, I'd love to do that. So let me read a section where they attend. So Kannagi is going to attend a class which is called Powers of Sleepwalking, which is what they call an LCA. You're frozen, Shyamala. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. So what I'll do is instead of reading that section, I will read out a part where they are with their grandfather and they're having a conversation with their grandfather, and the conversation is a little bit crazy. It's called Looney School because both Kannagi and Padma had these hopes that it's going to be a great school where they're going to have lots of fun, but then they discover that it's a slightly crazy school with really crazy subjects. And so that their grandfather, their tata, comes to pick them up from school. Here's how the conversation goes. I got into the car and slammed the door. How was your day? Asked Tata. Loony, I said. Tata chuckled. It's crazy, I cried, throwing my hands in the air. Our subjects are called LCA, MCA, RLS. It's mad. Tata smiled at the road ahead. Had he registered a word? What would you like to eat? He asked. Upma or idli? I held back a sigh and glanced at Padma in the rearview mirror. Conversations with Tata were often like this, veering unexpectedly from one place to another, just like the car when he was driving. So I think Tata is one of my favorite characters as well here because he cares so much for the children, and in the way that so many people do, he shows his affection through food. So he makes all kinds of things for them so that they feel at home. He doesn't want them to go to the hostel because he thinks, what's the point of them going to the hostel when they have a house so close by? But the kids are really keen. They want to go to the hostel because the hostel's cool. That's what they want to do.
I love the character and I like the way you've written stuff. So, so just information for the readers, admissions for the New Dawn, it's closed, right? It's closed, yes. But the admission for the reading club, which Varsha runs, is open. So can you tell readers more about the club? You also have writing classes, right? So where can people find you, and a bit more about the reading and writing classes where you're teaching?
So I do all kinds of things. So for the age group, I launched a creative writing program online just last year in 2020. The reason I did that was because the whole world moved online. Otherwise, I used to work with a school. I used to do a writers club there. So I have an online creative writing program. The next batch will begin in April. So really the best way to find out about it is through social media or my blog or my website. So my website is varshaseshan.com. And social media is where I put updates when I open for registrations and about the age group, about the fee structure, about the structure of the entire program. So at the moment, I don't have a creative writing program open. It'll begin in April, but I just launched my second batch of my reading program because the first batch was just so much fun. It's not over yet. I have just 2 weeks left, and several parents wrote to me and asked me, are you going to continue it? And the answer was yes, because I enjoy it, the children enjoy it, and it's all about books. So for this reading program, I have 4 books. I choose these 4 books. I read them, of course, in advance. And then I plan activities based on these books, which I share with the children. We read a bit together. So we have about 1.5 hours a week where we read little bits and then we do some activities. We talk about things. So we're in the middle of The Sheep Pig by Dick King-Smith. And it's great fun because children are so imaginative. So I ask them what their favorite animal is and what they would train that animal to do if they could. So one of the children said, my favorite animal is a blue whale. And if I could train a blue whale, I would train it to jump to the sun and come back.
Wow.
And I was like, this is such
great.
Yes, it's absolutely lovely. It's absolutely lovely. And each of them had a different idea. So one of them said, my favorite animal is a panther. And I would train the panther to adapt to a hot place, a cold place, because if the forest is not available, then it would continue to live wherever it is.
Wow.
Yes.
Some thoughts for the world, right?
Yes. So this is the program that I have coming up as well.
So it closes on 25th, 26th of Jan, the registrations close?
Yes, 25th of January, registrations close. The reason for that is because I provide the books to them and I start the workshop on the 2nd of February. So I need at least a week because I don't use Amazon. I tie up with independent bookstores. So if the child who registers is from Mumbai, I work with Kahani Tree. The Bangalore registrations, it's Funky Rainbow. Gurgaon has been so far Cool School. Storyteller from Kolkata was the first to reach out to me saying, we'd love to take care of your deliveries. So I tie up with independent bookstores. I need to give them a little time to source the books and send them out. So a week is usually.
I think it's a wonderful way of supporting local bookstores. I'm really proud of you. I'm very happy that you're doing this. So where can people find these 3 books of yours?
You can definitely find Dragonflies and the Clockwell clues at your local bookstore. So I know that Storyteller bookstore has it. Funky Rainbow definitely has the Clockwell clues, though I'm not sure about Dragonflies. Sisters at New Dawn, the ebook is available at the Zubaan e-store, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic, the distribution network has been affected. So for Sisters at New Dawn, you've got to go to Amazon. Though, of course, the others are also available at Amazon, though I always say bookstores first.
So support indie stores. Great.
Yes.
So my last question to you, there are not many authors who escape the power of WhatsApp. How have you managed to stay away from WhatsApp? Okay.
I don't have
power. What power do you have? That's always what they call, the young generation calls FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yes.
You don't get.
So I don't suffer from FOMO at all. I don't have FOMO at all. If people have conversations that are not interesting to me, they're just not interesting to me. And I just think that I've seen so many people addicted to WhatsApp and sending these random forwards, which I have no interest in seeing. And I said, I'm sorry, it's just easier to step away. And I also think that family groups become particularly over informative. Like you have so much stuff happening on large family groups, and once you get on WhatsApp, you just become part of these groups, and then you're exchanging information which is of no interest really to everybody on the group, and it just doesn't appeal to me at all.
So
Not
you
at all.
tasted WhatsApp and you have chosen to stay away from it, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
that's
And
good.
the thing is,
That's
yeah,
good
it's
for the
easy to reach
readers.
out to me.
Ah,
Yes, it's
absolutely.
easy to reach out to me, right? I have a
Yeah.
phone number. You can call me, you can text message me, you can send me an email, you can contact me on Instagram, Facebook.
Yes.
WhatsApp is where I draw my line.
Okay, so you can, we come to the end. We have time challenges, right? Do you want to say something to the readers before we end?
I only want to say thank you. Thank you so much, Shyamala. It's wonderful, everything that you do for Indian Kidlit. So thank you so much to Kahani Takbak and to you, Shyamala, because you are Kahani Takbak. Thank you for doing these sessions, for sharing videos, for promoting Indian Kidlit as much as you possibly can, because we need this kind of traction.
Yeah,
so that's all I
thank you
really
so
want to
much.
say.
Thank you. You can follow Varsha Seshan at it's Varsha Seshan. What is your Insta
Varsha
handle?
Seshan. So my Twitter handle is Varsha Seshan. My Instagram handle is Varsha Seshan. My Facebook is Varsha Seshan. And my website is varshaseshan.com. So you know my name, you've got everything that you need.
Yes, you've got everything. So she is out there. So thank you so much, Varsha, for joining us. Right?
Thank you, Shyamala.
Yeah, and if you want to follow Kahani Takbak, you can follow it on YouTube. You can watch the videos. We have some cool videos. You can also subscribe to Kahani Takbak on Facebook, right? So thank you so much. In case you want to write, drop a mail, write to Kahani Takbak. That is KAHANITAKBAK@gmail.com. So yeah, see you all. Show all your books, Varsha. We should leave.
Yes, these are my 3. So my face is less important. So these are the books. Those are all 3. That's Clockwell, Clues, Dragonfly, Jigsaws, and Seashells, and Sisters.
Yeah. Let me take a screenshot.